part one of the State Capture Commission's report has raised questions about the role of auditors and accountants in the flow of money during the years of state capture. PwC, for example, you may recall, even during the inquiry was questioned about the clean audits that it gave to SAA at a time when we were hearing evidence from whistleblowers who worked at the public entity that there was clearly something wrong. Now, damning findings have been made against the likes of Dudumieni, who was then the chairperson of the board. And the Commission has also found that it's rather curious that her term was still renewed even though SAA was clearly not taking off. But then let's talk more about the role of the auditors and the audit profession going forward post the release of this report. I'm joined tonight by Raisa Patha, investigator at Open Secrets. Raisa, very good evening to you. Welcome to the program. So I mentioned PwC because they were always questioned, weren't they, even during the inquiry, about how is it that SAA's audits did not reflect the nature of what we were learning was going on. Now that the report is out, what are your reflections on the audit profession and its role in state capture thus far?
Hi there. Thank you so much, Tembekile. It's been a profound day, and as you say, the Commission has made damning findings against PwC and its partner Nkonki with its relationship to SAA. Strangely, even though the Commission made damning findings, this did not carry through to the recommendations, so we don't really see any recommendations being made against PwC or Nkonki. And this is something that we hope will be addressed in later parts of the report. Because ultimately, if there is no accountability against auditors, then they can continue to commit these crimes unabated. The Commission did recommend, however, that the AG, the Auditor General, should be tasked with overseeing the auditing of SOEs, which we believe would be an improvement rather than allowing the private sector to continue auditing when there have been so many mistakes in the past, not just by PwC, but also KPMG, if we remember the SARS road unit saga and their role in that.
And just on what you're saying, we're hoping to hear some way forward when we have the full reading, shall we say, of the report as to what needs to happen to the audit profession going forward. How likely is it that there'd be such serious financial rot in a government department, in an SOE, without auditors picking it up?
Well, I mean, PwC definitely knew what was happening, and there have been findings made against them for their role at SAA. There is no way that they didn't know. They signed off on reports where they should have reported financial mismanagement and irregularities. So the argument that the auditors knew nothing, frankly, is not a good one, and it does not stand true. And it is also the role of audit regulators like IRBA to ensure that there is transparency, that they do name the auditors, the companies, the individuals involved who were found to have contributed to corruption, so that, you know, there can be accountability as we need it in South Africa.
What should accountability look like? How do we better the protections, right? Because when you think of auditing, you think of professions such as medicine, professions such as law, where ethics are such a high priority issue, yet here we see that they are sharply in question.
Well, I mean, one of the recommendations the report made is that private entities who are found to be negligent in their duties should be disqualified from working with government agencies. And we think that this would be an important step forward. So, for example, if PwC is found guilty of wrongdoing, they should not be allowed government contracts. And the same goes for KPMG, Deloitte, and any of the other audit firms that currently find it so easy to get government jobs within South Africa. That would be a major step forward. The powers of the IRBA should also be used responsibly as a regulating authority. And as we said earlier, there needs to be transparency about the wrongdoing, who was involved, and there needs to be prosecutions where possible for those who have flouted their duties.
And what are the implications, you think, long-term, outside of the government space and what is being dealt with or has been dealt with through the inquiry process? Do you think there's a permanent dent done to the reputation of the industry?
I wouldn't say so yet. Remember, the report has not revealed anything new so far, and it is likely that as Part 2 and Part 3 are made public, that what will be revealed in the Zondo Commission's reports will be much information that we already know. The importance of the Zondo Commission is in its recommendations. that's where we're going to find justice and accountability. And ultimately, it is through the recommendations that we will be able to take these private sector companies and force them to do better where possible. Without good recommendations, they will continue to mismanage and do their jobs poorly as they have done in the past.
I want to go back to the issue, the recommendation that private entities that are found to have done wrong in the corruption scandal to do with state capture should be banned, essentially, from doing business again with the state. Where auditing is concerned, we know that the options are still few, at least as far as mainstream audit houses are concerned. How much does that hinder the ability of large organizations to search for options?
Yeah, I mean, in South Africa, we have the big audit firm, the big four audit firms, and beyond them, we don't have much choice. And that is why we see KPMG, Deloitte, PwC, the audit firms we know, continually getting government contracts. This is why the recommendation that the AG be allowed to audit all SOEs as the point auditor is an important one, because this will subvert the big four audit firms who have been found guilty of wrongdoing in this country from continually getting these contracts. There is no option outside those four audit firms, unfortunately, which is why it's important that the AG take on this role.
And Raisa, on the AG, I mean, the AG herself and even the late former Auditor General, Kimi Makwetu, had raised this before, the issue of reports, damning as they are, being issued with credible audit outcomes and recommendations and ways to move forward. Yet when those reports land on the relevant desks in the public sector, there's little to no implementation of what is in there. Do we need to arm that office more?
Certainly, I think so. And just remember, also in terms of the Commission's report, the State Capture Commission, Ramaphosa will have a duty to act on the recommendations, which Zondo says in his reports. That's why it's so important. The findings, he does not have to act upon. The government does not have to mention the findings if they don't want to. But the recommendations are where we will see action. And in terms of the AG's office, if the AG is empowered to do more work with SOEs and to properly audit their books, then the AG's office will also have to be given more power, more resources, and more capacity. And hopefully this will strengthen their ability to do good and authoritative auditing that is in the public interest.
Raisa Patha with Open Secrets. Good to speak to you as always, Raisa. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.